What? Who would be a better defender, Andre Roberson or Isaiah Thomas with a gun? Isaiah can't actually shoot players since that's a foul. Probably flagrant, but we'll see how Tony Brothers sees it. Isaiah can, however, shoot the ball mid-air on the way up, and that's a block. Assume the crowd is protected by bulletproof glass. He can also use it for intimidation since the other players will have no idea why he has a gun on him. Okay, first of all, I assume this takes place during that 2016-17 season because it says Andre Roberson and Isaiah Thomas, who were actually relevant back then. So at that point, Andre Roberson was like the best defender in the league, and Isaiah Thomas was averaging like what, 30 points a game or something along those lines. So Isaiah, he's an amazing scorer, but the thing is he had his, you know, his reputation of being a terrible defender since he's only 5'8", and that's completely understandable. So which makes him a better defender? So here's the way I see it, right? So if Isaiah Thomas has a gun, right? If Isaiah Thomas has a gun, I don't see any reason as to why he would need to be in front of a player. So first of all, if I'm the opposing team and I inbound the ball and I see Isaiah Thomas pointing a gun at me, I'm immediately going to get scared. And I'm going to look at the ref and I'm going to say, you know, Tony Brothers won the world. And if the ref says, hey, I'm allowing it, then I would just have to move with the game. But I would also have to be, you know, weary of the fact that he has a gun because he could just shoot the ball at any moment. Now, it says specifically of shooting the ball mid-air, so I'm going to take that as an assumption that he can't use it for steals in the sense of like, you know, someone's inbounding the ball and dribbling it up the court. You can't just shoot the ball while they're dribbling it. You can only shoot it while it's in mid-air. If I'm Isaiah Thomas in the situation, I'm not necessarily standing in front of defenders because I don't necessarily need to. I'm just, you know, practicing being able to shoot a gun. He's probably going to be shooting at the basket area since that's the easiest place he could probably shoot it from, since that's like a clear target. People are not going to be shooting around for the basket. Like if I'm going for a dunk, I don't want my hand shot by a bullet. So there's going to be no dunks, no layups or anything like those lines. So to answer the question, who would be a better defender, Andre Roberson or Isaiah Thomas with a gun? I mean, Isaiah Thomas becomes the best interior defender in the league with the gun, so I'm going to have to go with Isaiah Thomas. And that even goes if you replace Andre Roberson with, like, Gary Payton or Rudy Gobert or Shaq, and basically any single person, you know? I'm going to go with Isaiah Thomas with the gun. If Robert Time Lord Williams had an ability to transform all his teammates into their prime, but he was a 0.00000 player, would he be worth a max contract? So before I actually read this, backstory as to why Robert Williams is called Time Lord. So when he was originally drafted by the Celtics in 2018, he was late to, I believe, about two some sort of press conferences or something along those lines, and that just gave him the nickname of Time Lord because that's just irony, and we've just kind of been running with it since. Here's what it says. Note, keep in mind that he would have to be on the court for that to work, not on the bench. So you'd essentially have to play a 0.00000 player at all times to have this effect work. Also, you can't have retired players come back and be in their prime again. So no 60-year-old Shaq playing like he's 20. But you could, for instance, sign him with LeBron, and LeBron would be in his prime until the day he retired when playing with the Time Lord. Initially, when I read this, I thought it was just if you have the guy on the team, then everyone playing is in their primes, and, you know, that would be an obvious yes, but he has to be in the game in order for it to work. It really depends on who Robert Williams is playing with in order to put them all in their primes. Like, let's say like the Knicks, for example. So they recently acquired Derrick Rose. So if Robert Williams was on the court with them at the same time, he would be playing like MVP Derrick Rose again, as if he never got injured. Is that worth a max contract? In essence, I have to say yes. Because, I mean, that's kind of just like an overpowered ability. And even though Robert Williams, when he's on the court, wouldn't necessarily be putting up points or getting rebounds or assists or steals or blocks, and, You know, that's actually not that good now that I think of it. But you know what? He could still do like hustle plays. He can still do those type of Marcus Smart plays. And here's a question that I actually have to ask though. It says it brings players back into their prime. And I'm essentially thinking of, you know, taking Derrick Rose and putting him back when he was an MVP. If you stuck him with Zion Williamson, would Zion Williamson start playing like he would if he was in his prime like 6 or 7 years from now? I'm gonna have to say yes, and that's also more of a reason as to why that Robert Williams would be a max contract player. So my answer is yes, he would most certainly be worth a max contract, even if you have young guys, because that'll immediately boost their progression to their prime spots. So yeah. Who would win? A team of the best players who played in the year 2003 or a team of everyone who didn't play in 2003? If you composed a team made up of only players who played in the calendar year of 2003 with the players adjusted to their primes, would it defeat a team of the best players who never played in 2003? And this person gives an example of what the 2003 team would look like. I made some adjustments because you can probably see on the bench there are two names that just I don't need to explain myself, but I essentially made some adjustments, and then I built another team of players that did not play in the year 2003. So here's what we got for the 2003 team. We have Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Tim Duncan, Shaquille O'Neal, and for the bench we have Steve Nash, Dwayne Wade, Allen Iverson, Tracy McGrady, Dirk Nowitzki, David Robinson. And for the not 2003 team, this consists of players that never played in the year 2003. Magic Johnson, Stephen Curry, Kevin Durant, Larry Bird, and Hakeem Olajuwon. And then for the bench, Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Isaiah Thomas, the Pistons one, James Harden, and Chris Paul. All of these players that I just listed are now in their primes. Now, the 2003 team obviously has the top 2 best players of all time. Let's just get that out of the way. I think top 3 shooting guards of all time. The not 2003 team has the 4th best shooting guard of all time. Is James Harden the 4th best shooting guard of all time? I think so. Keep in mind, the 2003 team also consists of the top 3 power forwards of all time: Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, and Dirk Nowitzki. Now, if you want to get in debate what the order of that is, it's exactly how I listed it. There is no debate. There is also the fact that they have Shaq and David Robinson. That's kind of, you know, important. But the not 2003 team also has some interesting faces like Magic or Bird or KD or Hakeem. I'm seeing a lot of, you know, current players on here as well. And there's also like a buttload of centers because there's a bunch of, you know, historical centers back in the day. And also, here's a quick note. Bill Russell back, if you actually watch Bill Russell highlights, he played more like a wing does, as opposed to just like your traditional post-up big man. He was a very fast, agile guy, so keep that in mind. He'd probably play more along those lines, as opposed to just posting up all the time. So between who I'd decide to win, this is actually a very, very difficult question, because the bottom team has some shooting, the top team also has some shooting. I think I'm gonna go with the 2003 team, because they just have the, you know, the 2 best players of all time, and then the top 3 best power forwards of all time, and Shaq. So, you know, how do you beat that? Let me know what you guys think down below. Who would win between these 2 rosters? Is it legal for players to kiss as a strategy? It's an off-season question, but I'm serious. Let's say that it's the finals game 7 in crunch time. If LeBron starts kissing Kyrie, not a single defender will be watching the ball. You know, you're not wrong. Leaving JR open for an easy 3. Would LeBron and Kyrie be called for a technical, or would the points count? The rules say the technical fouls relate to unsportsmanlike behavior, but I don't see how this is unsportsmanlike. It's just the most uncharacteristic thing ever. What do you guys say? I actually have an answer to this. I don't know if you guys watch WNBA. I don't necessarily do. I watch some highlights sometimes. But Diana Taurasi, I think everyone knows that name. I remember watching a highlight of her when it was essentially, I think it was a dead ball. And she just decides to kiss another player as like a joke, right? And they were both called for technical fouls. So I'm assuming that means that it's unsportsmanlike behavior to be kissing another player on the court. So that's a literal, you know, life example of this application. You know, Diana Taurasi kissed another player on the court and she got called for a technical. So I imagine if, you know, flashback back to 2017, if LeBron just starts kissing Kyrie Irving, I imagine they're going to get called for a technical, and then NBA Twitter is going to go crazy. And then, yo, what if it was Kelly Oubre? And the last question that we have here for today: Could an owner theoretically marry a player to circumvent the cap? Like, let's say Wes Edens just marries Giannis. He could pay him the minimum to stay with the Bucks and just share his assets on the back end. Or if AD just marries Jeannie Buss, the Lakers could incur another massive contract because AD is getting paid and laid off the books. So there is actually an article that I found relating to this Reddit post, and the thought process behind this is that if the NBA finds out that it's not a legitimate marriage and they're doing it specifically to get off money, that's just a big scandal. Now, if it was legitimately like a love marriage, like the two individuals in love with each other, the owner and the player, then I think that's completely okay. But it also like begs the question of like, if AD and Jeannie Buss were in love with each other and they decide to get married, would AD still have to sign a max contract? Because like, even if they're in love, right? Like, they're in love, they get married and all that. You know, AD signing like a $2 million contract is gonna look very, very suspect, and then that's just gonna garner a lot of questions. So even if they're like in love and they're not doing it specifically to circumvent the cap, it's still gonna be very suspect, and I think people are gonna get in trouble. So I'm gonna say no to this one, but let me know your guys' opinion down below. And that is the end of this video. If you guys did enjoy, be sure to leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe to stay up to date on future videos. Now, if you want me to make an episode 2 of this type of series, be sure to let me know, and also like find posts on Reddit and send them to me on Twitter. Here's my ad on the screen, by the way. Yeah, that's all I really got for you guys. I had a lot of fun making this video, and I will see you guys next time. Oh, and happy Valentine's Day. I know I'm not... Yeah, this is how you get me. If you can't take me like this, you don't deserve me at my best. Okay, bye.